Hello everyone, welcome back to the Across the Park podcast. And it's that time of the week again. It's our opposition preview. Delighted to have Joe from Albion Obsessed podcast. Good to see you again, Joe. Good to hear from you.
Yes, you too, mate. It's been a while. Lots has happened since last time. I don't really want to talk about the last time, but here we are.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it depends which last time you're talking about. We're talking about the last game
at home.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but we'll certainly get into that. That's one of few positives we've had in the last 12 to 18 months. So anyway, thanks again for joining us, Joe. For anyone who's not seen these shows, it's more about trying to get as much of an insight into the current form of the opposition, what shape they're in, what we can maybe expect going into it. There's obviously, Joe, just to set the scene a little bit. There's a lot of anxiety within Everton at the moment. The pending news that we're expecting around the outcome of our appeal. So that maybe this podcast might be one that's less of interest to fans over the next 24 hours if that news does drop. But again, considering where we're up to with the Premier League now and how slow and inconsistent they seem to be with their comms, God knows when that's going to be anyway. So let's focus on the matters at hand on the pitch, the things that we can to some extent predict with some degree of I'm going to say reliability, but it's probably not the right word. Anyway, over to you, Joe. First, the last time we spoke, I think we were, reflecting on the expectations for the upcoming season. Whether as a fan group, you're looking for a repeat of last season, or whether it was about stability. How you wanted to approach things in Europe. What's the update? Things since the last time we spoke, the last time when you came to Goodison?
Yeah, it's gone incredibly well for us in Europe. The media proclaimed group of death was topped by none other than little old Brighton and Hove Albion, and it was special. It's been a really special ride. We had a very bumpy start. We got beat at home by Athens. It sort of rained on our parade, and the weather showed as well, because it was the wettest I've ever been at a football match ever. It was awful.
I think that was not too. I think that was only a few weeks before when the last time we spoke, wasn't it? Because
I think so.
I remember you saying it was something like it brought you back down to earth a little bit, didn't it? That was all because they were probably.
So.
Go on, carry on, sorry.
Because we're on such a high, and obviously getting the group that we did get was really special, and it's three clubs that have huge European pedigree. And then a few weeks later, I'm not sure if it was after or before our trip to Goodison, but we faced Marseille away from home, and that was a big wake-up call. We were 2-0 down after
That was after.
Yeah. 2-0 down after 37 minutes, and we had to have a really big second half to come back and get a point away from home. And I think that really put us in good stead for what was to come, because after that, we didn't lose a Europa League game. And as I say, we topped our Europa League group with a last-minute goal at home from João Pedro against Marseille, who only needed a point to top the group. And honestly, was the best moment I've ever had as a football fan. To be on that stage and to announce yourselves in that way, and say we're not just here to make up the numbers, much like when we got promoted to the Premier League. It was always going to be a case that Brighton and Hove Albion aren't just here to make up the numbers, and it's a story that follows this football club throughout its history, and it's good to see it continue in one of the biggest competitions in the world.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you touched on the fact that you maybe didn't have the best start, nor in Europe. It was a little bit of a rocky start in the league, and I remember the last time we spoke, it was you put some of it down to the fact the manager didn't seem to know what his best 11 was kind of rotating quite a lot to deal with the early demands of Europe. Is it fair to say that since, the Europe's broken up a little bit, that's helped and that's contributed to a bit more consistency in the league?
I think we've probably been forced into not making so many changes because we've had such a huge injury list. We had all of our wingers were out injured. We've only just had them come back. And it was clear to see the difference between us without wingers and with wingers against Sheffield United. it's just a crazy different it's a crazy.
We haven't had wingers for 10 years, so
it's a thing, and you don't realize how you miss them until they're out injured, or you say until
not there.
10 years at all. So I think for the last sort of 9-10-ish games, that Roberto De Zerbi's had to stick with a very similar starting 11 and a very similar system to play, because we've had to just make use of what we've got. There's going to be a lot more headaches now that we've got, obviously, Simon Adingra, Karim Matoma, Ansu Fati, Julio and Cisso's come back as well. Obviously, João Pedro's out injured at the moment, but is coming back soon. Evan Ferguson, Danny Welbeck. So we've got a lot of options for De Zerbi to be playing with, and a lot of options that De Zerbi likes to play with as well, but he can't play 9 attackers as much as he would like to, I'm sure. But I'm not sure if we've found the balance of the team yet, because I don't think we've been allowed to.
Yeah, but at the whole, the full
So just got to see how we react and how we end the season, because what I said to the guys on my podcast was, yes, although we've been really struggling with injuries at the moment, they're all coming back roughly at the same time and at a very vital point of the season before our next Europa League game as well. So we could really build some big momentum and push for a really special end to the season, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Is it next week you're back in Europe? Week after next?
I think it's the week after next.
Yeah, because you finished top, you kind of not going to buy.
Yeah. So the other draws will be played today. The draw is tomorrow, so we find out our next opponents tomorrow, and then those ties will be played on the 7th and the 14th of March.
Fair play. So again, congratulations, obviously, on the first place finish, and hopefully you get another. It's one of them, isn't it? At this stage, you're a bit conflicted, I guess, because you want another big tie, you want another big challenge for the club, but it's always also at the stage where you'd like to get through this round and start to get into the juicy rounds of the competition. You've got Champions League clubs that have dropped down into the Europa League as well, which makes it even more exciting. What's your feeling on that? Would you rather not get an easy tie, but get a tie where you think, listen, we're more than capable of getting through, and then start to get the bigger names?
Yeah, I'd like to see us get some favourable ones. I say favourable very cautiously because
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's disrespectful, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like to get ones where I would feel relatively confident. What I like about this stage of the competition is the fact that there's going to be 2 legs up until the final, because Roberto De Zerbi has shown us that if we have a disappointing result, the next time is normally very much different. And the fact that we get to play the second leg at home as well is really big this time round anyway. I hope that's the case for the next ones. But I would like to avoid the bigger names until sort of semi-final sort of time, because I think if you was to draw, I don't know, and again, I don't want to disrespect anyone, but if you was to draw Karabag in the semi-final and beat them, it wouldn't feel as special as beating AC Milan. So you sort of do want to save that, but also you want to avoid them at all costs.
And equally, playing an AC Milan in this round and you go out, it's just a little bit we got to the first knockout stages, but we went out to the first hurdle of the knockout stages. So no,
exactly. I think it'd be easier to take if it was an AC Milan or someone like that, but as you say, I would love to go further deeper into the competition. I think semi-finals I would be extremely happy with. Quarterfinals I'll be okay with. But I won't tell you that I've already booked a hotel in Dublin on 3 cancellations for the Europa League final. But
No, it's all right. No, I'll forgive you for that. I'm sure you won't have a problem selling a hotel to someone in Dublin anyway if you have to cough up before the final.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, onto the game of the weekend. As you mentioned, we've had a decent result there in the past. I don't for a minute suggest that that's any real indicator as what we can expect the weekend. But Is there something in the back of your mind when you joked about it at the start? Is it a fixture that you're approaching with a little bit of anxiety because of the last time?
Yeah, I'm terrified. Sean Dyche at the Amex is horrible. The last 2 times he's come to the Amex, you beat us 5-1, and the time before that was Burnley, and they beat us 3-0, and they were rock bottom of the Premier League, and we were flying high, trying to get into Europe. So Sean Dyche seems to have our number somewhat when he comes to the South Coast. I don't know if it's the beach that makes him feel good.
Salty.
I don't know. But yeah, I'm approaching it with a lot of anxiety. I think I'm under no false illusions that Everton would be sitting 12th if they didn't have points deduction.
Fair play, you're the first person who's actually pointed that out. I normally have to point it out to other people, so fair play to you. At least
you're a good side.
You're
a good side. And yeah, the league position is a complete and utter lie. And the Premier League, I'm with you, is corrupt. When Everton are getting docked 10 points, why not Man City? Why not Chelsea and the people who are going through all these stupid loopholes? But it's Everton that get the punishment. Really, really angers me. So I am with you on that. But cheers. How I think this weekend's going to go, I just, it's one of those that I really don't want to predict. And a few of the guys from the podcast that don't normally go are going to the game as well. And we've never sat in the stadium at the same time that Brighton have won, so that's not a very good hoodoo. So
you're actually making me quite optimistic for the game now. This is
you should be. You should be. You haven't won in 8 games. I think Match of the Day posted the other day, and someone tweeted, "Let Dr. Brighton and Hove Albion see you now." Normally when teams are on those sort of runs, we are normally the ones to rectify that for you. So you're welcome in advance.
We're in the same camp normally, so you've got my sympathy there. Just, I guess this is the $1 million question, but it was a question I was going to ask you anyway. What do you do different to last time? Because I watched that game back, not the whole game, but the highlights and stuff, and you'll remember it as well. You did pretty much dominate the game, in terms of possession and chances, and you peppered our goal quite a bit. We hit you on the break and we were pretty clinical. I mean, on another day, that could have been 2 or 3-1 to Brighton. It was just one of those days where it came together for us. So does De Zerbi change? You've said this before. I don't think it's going to be the case, but would you do anything different this time? Or do you think De Zerbi might play it differently?
I think what De Zerbi does perfectly well is he doesn't let his players forget when performances like that have really disappointed him. Notably, obviously, we just lost 4-0 to Luton, and then the week after we go and beat Palace 4-1. So it's something that's always in the back of De Zerbi's mind, and I think he will have us better prepared for the physical presence that Everton bring and the Sean Dyche team bring. But that is his kryptonite, is playing a really physical team who are going to sit in, wait for their opportunity, break really well, and that's what Everton do. So if I sit here and say yes, he'll have us better prepared, and we go and lose at the weekend, I'm going to look like an absolute mug. But I really do think that he will have the players a little bit more up for it than last time.
You spoke about some of the players you've got coming back into the team. Which players in particular do you expect to come back in and maybe make the most impact this weekend?
So obviously we've got Karim Matoma and Simon Adingra, who lit up Bramall Lane last weekend. I fully expect them to start again, barring that Karim Matoma's leg has recovered from that horrible Mason Holgate challenge, which was just unbelievable. I don't know how he was shocked that he got a red card, and I don't know how their captain...
Because he's brain dead, that's why. And I couldn't believe that Sheffield United decided to sign him when Southampton couldn't get rid of him quick enough in the Championship. It was a bizarre decision, but it didn't surprise me in the slightest, that type of behaviour, because we've seen that for the last 6 or 7 years.
It's crazy. And just for their captain and their manager to come out afterwards and say that they didn't think it was a red card is just ludicrous. If Matoma's leg was planted on the ground, that could have very well snapped his leg in half.
Career ending.
Yeah. So it's ridiculous behaviour to back up from them. But I fully expect him to come back. He wasn't in the video for the training, the little training montage Brighton normally do when they say preparing for Everton or whatever. So that's a little bit of a concern. But then, as I say, we've got Ansu Fati, who's back on the bench, fit and firing, ready to go. And hopefully we'll see the return of Julio Enciso very soon, coming off the bench and hopefully causing a few problems. But I'm not sure how close he is. That's the thing with Brighton and the medical side, is that they're always very, very careful with
cautious.
it. So we don't actually know how close players are to returning to full match fitness. But if Matoma's not there, I very much expect Ansu Fati to start.
How much of a miss is João Pedro being? Because, I mean, he's a player I rated highly anyway when you signed him. It was a really good coup. And, you know, he was kind of eased into the team. You've had players who've come in and out. Evan Ferguson's come in there. Danny Welbeck seems to be the person at the moment who's got the shirt. How much of a difference is it, Danny Welbeck to João Pedro?
Yeah, obviously with Danny Welbeck, there's a few physical limitations, but he still brings a level of experience and leads the line very, very well. It's been in the Brighton Twitter sphere that Danny Welbeck doesn't know whether he's going to extend his stay, but the club are quite confident that he will. So it would be good to get him on another year. I think it's very clear to see what these players bring to a side like us, like Adam Lallana as well, James Milner, who's come in this season. They've been imperative to our success. The difference, obviously, with João Pedro is that he is that player that can just turn up in moments, even though if he's been out of the game for 80 minutes, he will just turn up and score the goal. He's very much that player that can just flip a game on its head. And he's been an absolute revelation for us this season. £30 million. Normally, we don't do huge transfer fees, but he's certainly paid that back and some. I think he's on like 14, 15 goals already this season. And our highest scorer last season was Alexis McAllister on 12, I think. So, yeah, it's an amazing thing to have a player like him. And it's been a little bit of a miss the last couple of games. But as I say, luckily we've had the players like Matoma, like Adingra come back and give us that sort of pace and electricity up the wide areas that João Pedro would normally give us if they weren't there. So
in the channels,
I think the balance has been quite lucky for us, really. But when we get João Pedro back and we've got our wingers back as well, I fear for everyone else in the Premier League, because it's a formidable attack.
You speak about the £30 million fee, and you rightly said it. It's, you know, he's repaid that and then some. It just makes such a huge difference generally to the league position. You know, those games where maybe you're drawing 1-1 or drawing 0-0 or maybe getting beat 2-1, you're picking up points from them goals that he's contributing. I mean, I went down a bit of a XG rabbit hole the other day looking at, because Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been so toothless for us, and what I found was that João Pedro's almost got the same XG as Calvert-Lewin this season. Calvert-Lewin's got 3 goals, and as you say, João Pedro's got 14. I think he may have around 9 or 10 in the league, but he's got almost identical XG to Calvert-Lewin, and that just shows if you've got a player who's finishing his chances off, the difference it can make. You say, you know, we would have been 12th, and I think that it's probably a fair reflection of where we are as a team. But if Calvert-Lewin is putting his chances away and he's on 9 or 10 goals, we could have, you know, by all accounts, been not far off you in 7th place. So it makes a huge difference when you got a forward who's firing.
Yeah, massively, and again makes a huge difference if he's injured. We've got the likes of Evan Ferguson and Danny Welbeck to come in and lead the line. Evan Ferguson hasn't been anywhere near as impressive this season as he was last, but I think that's to be expected with a 19-year-old who's just broken through. And De Zerbi's spoken very much on his attitude and the fact that he really likes how he works. Played really well against Palace. You know, made some really good spaces for João Pedro. And I think it's very clear to see our goal output when João Pedro and Evan Ferguson are playing on the same team together. It's a really impressive stat if you have a chance to look at it, because I think they've got that sort of
understanding,
the link, that weird link that strikers get, and the partnership could be something that really blooms for us. And then there's another partnership as well that we've not been able to see much of because of injuries. But there's in the Europa League, especially a little link between Adingra and Ansu Fati. They've been linking up really well, and hopefully, if we can get those partnerships all the way across the pitch, like we've got with Jean-Paul Van Hecker and Lewis Dunk at the back as well, we could see a really good, strong end to the season.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you spoke about that when it was a game that I watched. You played in the Europa League against Ajax. I might be wrong here. It was Ajax at the MX and you absolutely destroyed them. I think in that particular game they were outstanding. Fati in particular on that side. But no, again, it's I look at that with a huge degree of envy. I won't lie. The talent that you've got at your disposal. Is the front two something that De Zerbi would be tempted to play this week, as in Ferguson along with Welbeck, or is that not a partnership that it may be as effective as the other two?
Yeah, they've played a couple of times together, especially when we've been like chasing a goal to come back into a game, and De Zerbi's sort of thrown everything at it. But I'm not sure it's a system that De Zerbi would adopt from the start. I think it would be very much one striker would be Danny Welbeck, as you say. Very much got the shirt, and then three behind him, whether that be Facundo Buonanotte or an Adam Lallana or someone like that. I don't know whether he goes experience this weekend or whether he goes all out. I would like to see a little bit of experience because I think sometimes that there is that sort of leadership that's needed when you've got flary players like I've mentioned. You just need them to sort of toe the line and do their job sometimes. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how De Zerbi lines up this weekend, because as I say, we're without João Pedro, so I very much expect it to be Danny Welbeck. Okay,
in terms of what you expect, then give us your prediction.
Oh dear, I've made a vow to myself that when I go on opposition podcasts, I'm going to go with my heart because I'm done with trying to appease their audience.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I go with my heart and I go a 2-1 win for the Albion. Clean sheets are very sparse for us this season, extremely so. So you will score, but I just hope we outscore you.
Yeah, if we score, I mean, I'd be absolutely amazed and dumbfounded if we repeated anything like last time. But I think we've only scored 13 away from home. Despite that, we've actually got a half decent away record. We've picked up 5 or 6 wins, and we're probably in the top half in away form. But we've still only scored 13, so I don't see us getting a lot. I mean, I'm hoping, yes, also expecting. I say expecting. So I'm going to go with my heart, but I'm going to be a bit more cautious and say 1-1.
That's fair.
I think we might be somewhat successful on the break. For some reason, I fancy us to get a penalty this weekend. One, because we're on the dawn of a huge decision from the Premier League. Two, we haven't had a penalty for so long, and I just feel like there'll be something subconsciously playing in the back of the referee's mind that maybe we deserve a bit of luck. So I think we might get a penalty this weekend, and I certainly don't think we'll keep you guys out.
Well, as I say, you're winless in 8, so let Dr. Brighton Hove Albion see you now.
I tell you what, if we get a win this weekend, that'll cheer me right up. But again, Joe, really appreciate your time, mate. I genuinely mean it. Absolutely delighted to see how well the club's doing. Particularly the club is doing it the way you guys have done it, constantly defeating the odds and developing players in the way you do. So hopefully you get a more. Hopefully you get an easier draw in the next round.
Thank you.
You're allowed to keep in the later stages. Wasn't you said it? I have been there once upon a time, so I know how you're feeling. But yeah, best of luck, and may the best team win this weekend.
Indeed. Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. See you soon.